It's very nice to be here. Appreciate you all coming. So tonight I'm talking about how becoming T-shaped can cause a strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yes, Mr. Hyde. So first off, a little bit about me. I'm a tester, DevOps kid, and occasionally a Scrum Master from Leeds. I'm 1/7 of the Leeds testing atelier organisers, and you'll usually find me at one of the local meetups, Agile Yorkshire in fact, or Leeds DevOps. So some of my current obsessions are API automation, monitoring, dinosaurs, and real ale. So first off, let's start with some Scrum Master personas. So with people, there comes variance. And as Scrum Masters, it might not seem like it sometimes. It might seem like we're superhuman, but we are actually only human. And therefore, we have a lot of variance in the way we practice our craft. Being a Scrum Master is a very wide varying role. And to keep the balance between all the different personas that you need to carry, from speaking to higher management, to speaking to members of your team, or speaking to the product owner, it means that different personalities will come out. So here are a few that I have seen over the years. I suggest that you play bingo and see if you can get all of these. So the command and control. The command and control is a very common type of Scrum Master. This is a Scrum Master that has forgotten everything about the idea of coaching and enabling the team. Instead, they tell the team how they are going to achieve their goals, and any objection from the team means that the team get classified as difficult or perhaps badly behaved. Without coaching and resources, the team won't be able to believe in the journey that needs to be made to deliver awesome software. So the Hear No Evil Scrum Master is a subset of the command and control. However, this Scrum Master gives the impression that they are actually listening to their team's opinions and objections, but in actual fact, they have their mind completely made up. This Scrum Master will throw enormous meetings that last for hours, giving the impression to the team that they're letting the team choose their own destiny. But this is pure theatre, as in the end, the Scrum Master that has given themselves ultimate power in the decision and their opinion holds a higher ranking than any other team member. So, the Managing Master is a very interesting role, in that the Scrum Master has somehow also gained the role of managing the team. So although the Scrum Master tries to enable the team, on some occasions the team will be too scared to be able to speak up to the Scrum Master. And so you end up with a mirage of the team being enabled enough to make decisions, but really, they are still being puppeted. So, the stand back, I know Scrum Master can sometimes be quite a new Scrum Master that hasn't had the experience of being on a Scrum team yet. This Scrum Master has done their Scrum Master training, read all the books, and generally researched how to run a Scrum team, and therefore they know what to do in each eventuality. Or so they think. Once any occurrences that veer off the beaten track of the books and exams happen, the Scrum Master loses their tempers and demands that one of their known solutions be implemented, whether it fits or not. So this Scrum Master, the Resourcing Master, has somehow ended up not doing the Scrum Master role at all. Might be a case that they didn't ask the right questions in their interview, and so they ended up with a project manager role. Or they might not have the authority to be able to actually change the business's thinking. This Scrum Master spends most of their time sorting out resourcing, telling the business just when this project will be delivered, and their nose is buried in Gantt charts. They will be too busy with the administrative tasks to be able to help the team to be more effective in their role. So this Scrum Master, who is actually here tonight, the Metrics Master is a beautiful sight to behold and a very rare one. I've only encountered one in my lifetime, John. The Metrics Master collates all the metrics from Jira and presents them to the team so that the team can identify bottlenecks and issues that are occurring in each sprint by the way of monitoring their output. Using this, they work together with the team to be able to determine how they can improve together as a team. So the Metrics Monster looks very similar to the Metrics Master, but is actually the evil twin. Instead of reflecting to the team at the end on how they can constantly improve, the Metrics Monster becomes obsessed with burn-down charts and how they must follow the exact diagonal line. And if the team hasn't achieved the goal of being underlined, berates the team. So the enabler is a Scrum Master that cares oh so very much for their team. They understand the emotions that their team is feeling. They can see their team members in very many different layers. Scrum Master protects their team from anything that's happening within the business. But sometimes they become so focused on what the team is feeling that they don't think of what the business actually needs. A very delicate balance is required. So, the invisible man is a Scrum Master most likely sharing their Scrum Master role with another role on the team, perhaps development or test. The Scrum Master will organise all the meetings, but not really hold the meetings. Their interest isn't in the Scrum Master role at all. Perhaps they were the senior developer on the team, and so they were also given the Scrum Master role. It just isn't in their heart to be focused on the Scrum Master role. And next, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's a very similar makeup to the invisible man. The Scrum Master has taken the role on from within the team. They organise the meetings and protect the team and train product owners, but you'll find that there is something lacking, that being their other job role. They have focused so much on how they can make the team succeed that they have entirely forgotten their previous job role and steamroll the protest from the job role within entirely. And that's the Scrum Master I was. Let me tell you how I became the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, as all good stories go, I joined a startup. This was quite early on in one of the ideas of the startup, and it was going to be a social media company, which was going to be the next Facebook, apparently, which my colleagues were all very excited about. We received shares in it, and it was going to be absolutely huge in China. It consisted of a mobile application, which was going to be the main use, an API, and it was built on Azure. So we were using table storage. It was going to be a great, scalable, robust product, and it was very exciting. So when I started, I was hired as an automation tester and a monitoring specialist for the mobile application. I was going to be working on the API team, helping with the automation, and one of the testers was showing me this. In the first week, however, another project came along. Project I'd already actually seen when looking for the company, the website. No one wanted to work on the website, as it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a long project ever. We would just need to do a little bit of work on it, get it out, and then the people that worked on it could go back to their old teams. They also didn't like the concept of context switching, so one of the other developers, the junior who was straight out of uni, and I drew the short straws, and we were pulled onto the temporary website team. We'd be moving back to the original team anyway in a week or two, as the work would finish then, bish bash bosh. So I started work on the website with my developer. It was a rather silly project and absolutely fucking pointless. You wrote what you were a fan of in a text box, and it showed up in a word cloud. Nothing too tricky, so we delivered it within a few days. I spoke to the other tester who was on the API project about what automation would need to be put around it, and the answer was none, because it was a fairly throwaway project, so it was a fairly simple manual testing role. However, when I returned to the API project out of the blue, I received a Skype call from another developer who worked in our Netherlands office. He showed me a bunch of words and pictures of pigeons rotating in a word cloud, globe-like word cloud, and it was really thoughtful, as I'm a really fucking big pigeon fan. But it was obvious he wasn't doing this for fun. A disclaimer here, it was marginally better than this picture of pigeons on a globe, as their globe actually rotated, so it was a bit fancier. But yeah, it was pretty shit still. He asked if he could join the website team, which seemed like a strange way of building a team, especially one that didn't really matter, so I was told. But of course I accepted. Front-end developer would be really useful for the website, so it seemed sensible. But I was unaware there were changes on the horizon. So quite shortly after I'd hung up the phone from the front-end developer, I received another Skype call. This time from, well, I had no fucking idea who he was, but he had some work for me. And, well, the newfound team I apparently had collated. So what the front-end developer had shown me with a rotating globe-like word cloud was now required by tomorrow, if you please. We did a bit more work getting it ready from the proof of concept that the new developer had shown me, and it looked fucking terrible. So I told them that they couldn't have it. The tester in me had pride, and I didn't want the website going out with such a horrible interface. We argued slightly about it. I won the argument, and we decided we would make the words vibrate when you moused over them instead. We released the changes in the time frame they needed. Again, we thought that would be the last of it, but there were more changes ahead. So, unfortunately, this is all that is left from this period, screenshots of bug reports from my phone where I was submitting my bug reports, but hopefully it can give you an idea of the strange kind of shit that I was having to build. So this was a bit later on, so we had the word cloud refined slightly, but you can see in the second screenshot, they wanted the word cloud to be in the shape of a rocket. So it was difficult enough fitting the words on the canvas when it was large and rectangle shaped like that. And in a rocket, it was just even more difficult. So the next screenshot is of the word cloud. This is in a briefcase shape, apparently. So this is a bug there, but that's a briefcase, for people that fucking love traveling and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really weird work. But these changes were coming through so fast. They wanted unicorns and shit like that. It was bullshit. So every time we thought we had completed a piece of work and could have a break and move back onto this API project where all the really good stuff was happening, I could test APIs. I love APIs. But more work came in. Not so much verbally anymore, but in massive PowerPoint decks with assets we had to use. And the deadlines just kept getting shorter and shorter. We were working to a Kanban style at this point, as that little project, the website, couldn't possibly require formal processes. But after work kept on coming in, my developers and I were working over weekends to meet made-up arbitrary deadlines. I snapped. I was tired. My developers were so tired. We'd worked 11 days straight. We'd delivered absolutely everything they wanted, even though it was shit. And it still didn't matter, because there was always more shit to deliver. So, my developers are not working this weekend. I won't ever forget saying this. It was at 6:30. Everyone else except for one of the other testers had left the office for the day. 6:30 UK time meant it was 7:30 in Amsterdam. And the chap that I didn't know who he was, but he gave me the work, was still there. And he was on the phone to me. My developers are not working this weekend. Sorry, he said. I repeated it and said that we were going to make changes. I had to come up with a plan. So I sat down and I pulled out the stupid user stories from the stupid PowerPoint decks that the man that had the work had. I explained to the man who had the work what a product owner was, and we were going to start writing user stories together so he could learn. He wasn't really the product owner as such. The work that he passed to us came from elsewhere, and he often didn't have the authority to veto changes, but it was a pretty good start. He felt more empowered by being more involved with the development process. The decisions were the developers, and the developers had the chance to question and push back if a change just totally was not implementable. So we had our first sprint planning session with the stories I'd written. What was originally requested in 2 days ended up being 2 weeks worth of work. This included testing, and although we had to argue for it, it seemed like we were going to be making progress. I'd introduced the concept of a product owner, sprint planning, user stories, planning poker. Thank you for Trapsy for helping me with planning poker. And it looked like it was all going to be okay. We'd gained control of the situation. So the first sprint, we delivered everything on time with no overtime. And the team were happy, and our newfound product owner was happy. We received the new proposal of work 3/4 of the way into the sprint, planned it, and it was okay. This was all about being honest with the business and telling them when the work could actually be delivered, with a caveat that these were not estimates, and neither was a sprint planning session a forecast. When we said the work was going to be delivered by, the work had to be delivered by then. We never found out what would happen if it wasn't. We never missed a deadline, but the fear in the product owner's voice, if we were slipping, was enough to let us know it would not be very pleasant. So the reason why this never happened is sometimes we release software that, really shouldn't have been released. I remember the first time I backed myself into the corner as a tester. One of the changes to the word cloud had hideous performance issues. They wanted every single word that visitors to the website entered on the word cloud animated and fucking dancing around. Once the word cloud got over 200 words, the loading of the website slowed down so much. So I knew this and I warned people, but we had to get it out there. People's words that they entered were not loading within 10 seconds, so they weren't happy. But also, if you remember, I'd set up the monitoring and stuff. So this meant that I was getting woken up at 2 a.m. when the website went down, which it did because it was shit. And it just got worse. Occasionally, the product owner couldn't give us all the assets that were required for the website in good time. We released at 3 p.m. on a Friday. Goddamn, we released at 3 p.m. on a Friday. Usually every 2 weeks, but sometimes it was weekly, depending on the work that we'd received. I made the cutoff of 12 p.m. on a Friday for any changes to assets, any assets that were getting added, etc., like, globes and stupid shit like that. If they weren't there, they weren't there. The developers could get the assets in, but again, testing this in several different browsers, etc., in a few hours at the end of the sprint, it's just not going to happen. So I had to test this afterwards, and although the tester inside didn't actually want to release software where I didn't know the quality at all, unfortunately, due to deadlines, making sure that the product owner wasn't sacrificed to the gods or whatever the fuck was going to happen to him if we missed the deadline. So while this was going on, the code base was getting messier and messier. We didn't have unit tests because the code was meant to be thrown away. And we didn't have automated tests for the same reason. And because of the pressure to deliver, instead of considering good development practices, the work kept getting thrown at us via PowerPoint decks, and we didn't get a chance to breathe. So eventually, after begging the product owner for a few sprints, we got the chance to rebuild the website in the language we chose by a new piece of work coming in that was completely irrelevant to the work we'd previously completed, with one catch: a hard deadline. So by this point, my developers really, really needed this, and again, I had to choose. Would we deliver this with acknowledgement from the tester, or would we continue trying to save everyone's ass? I'm guessing you know the answer to this by now. So the strange thing about the whole startup in the end was my chaotic form of Scrum Mastery not doing all the normal things required, such as a retrospective at the end of the sprint because we didn't have time, and focusing on ensuring the team didn't have to work overtime, but letting the business know exactly what we were delivering by getting the estimates correct. Ended up my team kept their jobs, for better or for worse. So my obsession with getting the product delivered so the product owner was safe meant that when the API and the mobile team were let go, the website team still existed until the company went bust. As you can guess from the weird shit that we were building, the company really was not going anywhere, and it sure wasn't going anywhere with the complete disregard for testing over delivering rubbish. So we've all seen the triangle of project management. I'm really sorry for bringing up project management here, but where there's quality, time, and cost, and the answer is to choose two. The same can be said for wanting an employee to share themselves over Scrum Master and another role. No matter what, they won't be able to achieve everything. I absolutely loved my role, and I tried to do what was best for everyone on the team, except for myself. Quality had to suffer, as in the quality of the tester role I was meant to be supplying. The same happens with the invisible man persona. The problem with shared job roles is one always has to suffer. I believe in the T-shaped person. I absolutely love being the jack of all trades and master of none. Usually find me hanging out at DevOps, Agile, and test conferences, talking at a DevOps conference about being a tester, speaking at a testing conference about monitoring, or speaking at an Agile conference about DevOps. But in the end, I completely believe that we should hire specialist Scrum Masters. I was at a testing conference earlier this year, and I tweeted about commitments instead of forecasts. And holy shit, I had a world of Scrum Masters attacking me for using the wrong language. It was the right language in 2011, but I just hadn't kept up. If you want a professional, you need to be able to give them time to be able to study their role. And a shared role cannot help the individual achieve that. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.